there, Veronica. How are you?
Good.
Awesome. Awesome. I know, right? Getting the lighting right, getting the sound right. What we really look like, right?
I know, right? Yeah, well, we look like every single day when we wake up. Duh.
Exactly. Like all the stuff that really goes on behind the scenes is like the lighting and then it's like loop, and then it would like shine off my glasses, and I'm like always trying to fix it and all that kind of funny stuff. So it's all fun.
Let me get up your thing.
Yeah,
Awesome.
no worries.
All right. So, oh my gosh, I'm super excited to have you on. Super
Yay.
excited.
Awesome.
Okay. So you were able to get the email, everything worked fine?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Right now I was checking my email to see if
No worries.
because a couple people had trouble with the password, so I want to make sure that you.
Yeah, no. I mean, because you said empowered all in like I saw caps, and then there's a 1, and if they miss the 1, like if you glance at it really quick, I think they might be able to miss the 1, but because I saw it, I just put it in.
Okay, awesome. So my audience is primarily women, moms. And so I was looking at a lot of your work, absolutely fell in love with it.
Awesome.
Anything you want to make sure, I'm going to go ahead and start recording on my end. Anything you want to make sure that we hit on? I know you have your book.
Yeah, I just have a free book that I can give your audience that's not available free anywhere else. So only from using, from your show, and then using the free link. There's a password too. I have a password that they have to, free book with capital F, all one word, free book.
Okay.
So that's the only thing, but you really can ask me anything. Like I've been an entrepreneur, oh my gosh, over 32 years. I'm like 53 or something like that. So I've been an entrepreneur over like 32 years. So there isn't like really anything you can't ask me or I'm not willing to talk about or anything like that. And I'm really easy when it comes to how you want it to go and what you wanted to share and all that kind of stuff. So I'm really easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. I like
yeah. I am easy. Yeah.
And it's Mia Hewett, right?
Yeah. You got it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then have you ever, I don't know if you read on the email, have you ever recorded, do you have like a Mac?
I do. I have a Mac.
Awesome. Have you ever recorded on QuickTime Player or anything like that where you recorded your audio?
I don't know if I have. But we can, is that where you want to record on? I mean, it's up to you.
I'm recording on, no, it's fine.
Okay,
I'm recording on here. It's just kind of like added. That's fine. Some people have, some people haven't. It's not a big deal.
I mean, I don't think I have, but I'm happy to, like, if that's where you would rather record, I'm totally down for it.
It's good. It involves technical stuff, so
okay.
It's all right. We'll leave that to other people.
Okay.
All right, awesome. So yeah, I'm already recording on here, and then I'll have my audio, and then we'll take it from there.
Sure, sounds great.
Awesome. All right, here we go. All right. Hey ladies, welcome to Empowered and Unapologetic. I'm your host, Veronica Cisneros. Today's guest is a complete badass. She is the founder and CEO of Aligned Intelligence, the best-selling author of Meant for More, and an expert on the topic of human potential. Mia helps entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs who know they are meant for more stop secretly struggling and make 6- and 7-figure leaps in their business using her Aligned Intelligence method. This methodology works consistently and predictably to allow her clients the ability to coach themselves through any obstacles, build their dream businesses, and feel fulfilled in their purposes. Mia is passionate about empowering purpose-driven entrepreneurs to live the lives they have always known they were meant to be living. Welcome to the show, Mia Hewett. Hey, Mia.
Hey, thank you so much. Thanks for that introduction.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. It's a mouthful, but thank you so much. That's fun. Yeah, we're going to have fun.
We're definitely going to have fun today. So can you please share with us your story?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, let's see. I think the most important piece that anyone would want to know about me is that when I was about 5 years old, I was playing in my room. I remember hearing my father calling me, and I could tell by the sound of his voice that he meant business. Of all the people that I was afraid of in my house, my father was the one who scared me the most because I could never really tell like what was going to set him off. Like one minute he could be like the most gregarious, funny, like an entertaining guy. And then the next minute it's like literally something would go off and then somebody's going to get hurt. And I just always remember feeling like I had to walk around on eggshells.
Hmm.
And so I remember that day he said to me, I want us to go outside. And I was like, well, why? Like, why me? Like, I wasn't his favorite. I was like the second to the oldest. My older sister was like the boy he never had. So she was braver and did, more adventurous things. And I wasn't. So I was like, why? And I remember him saying, like, oh, we just want to spend time together. So we went outside and he says to me, which one is your favorite chicken? And I'm like, oh, like that was easy because I absolutely loved this one. I called her Henny Penny. And every time I came outside, she always wanted to see what I was up to. I always go and got her worms. Anyway, I remember saying, well, that's easy. That one, right? And with complete neutrality, he says, I hear him say, great, that's the one we're going to kill today. And I remember like freezing, completely going into like overwhelm. Like I remember like I didn't remember what was happening. My whole brain kind of shut down and I was so confused, extremely confused. And I remember, hearing a scream and then realizing, oh my God, that's me. And then I remember feeling like I have done something so horrible. Like this is all my fault.
Yeah.
My mind froze, I went blank. And then that day, my life changed forever. Like that was the day that I decided people don't really mean what they say. You can't really trust anyone, not even your own father. And the world, well, the world is a really scary place. And
Yeah.
so the interesting thing is at 5 years old, like I didn't
I'm still
realize,
processing what you just shared, by the way. I'm like, oh
yeah.
my God.
Yeah. And thank you. And so, yeah, like I didn't realize though at 5 years old that though I made a vow to myself that I would never let that happen to me again. And I didn't realize that those decisions is
Yeah.
inside of me building up walls around myself, right? Not letting anyone in for like years or even decades, really. I just never knew back then that the walls that I built would become my greatest limitations or glass ceilings for myself and my business. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Oh God, hell yes. It makes total sense. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes. So like that is like the biggest thing that I love to share because in my 30s and in my 40s, because it was like early 40s when I finally figured this all out, but like my 20s and 30s, late 30s, during that time, I never understood all the problems that I was having in my business were associated to this original trauma,
Yeah.
right? It was the thing that I want to give the world the most now that I understand all of it. I understand everything. I really want to give them the most is that every single human being has experienced a trauma. And
Hmm.
so even people who don't think they have one, and I'll just share why, like how it is. So basically how a trauma happens, and this is what people don't understand. I went to years of therapy. They never could help me. I've spent $500,000 on my own inside of personal development, working with the best and the best. They didn't understand it. So I was shocked when the top in the top doesn't even get it. Like I was like, what? But it took that for me to go, I cannot be the anomaly. There's no way. I'm not that special. There's got to be other people like me that struggle. Well, here's what I found. And it took me 6 years. So what I can help somebody overcome in 8 weeks, it took me 6 years to uncover. So
Hmm.
here's what it is in a nutshell. when we're born, and I know this is audio, but I'm still going to judge because
Yeah, no, let's do it.
I'm a visual person. So I'll speak it inside of, even though it's audio. But basically what happens is, so if this is our lifeline, right? We're all born, and we're born whole, perfect, and complete. Not one baby is born with a self-esteem issue. Not one.
No,
Right?
not at all.
And so there was a harmony to you. You totally trusted yourself, you trusted others, and you trusted life. And there was this feeling of complete harmony and connection to everything, everyone. And then something happened. So I see the most amount of traumas around 2 years old. Sometimes I've gotten a couple 15 months old, but these are people who didn't remember. So, but when I show you how to find it, the cool thing about the subconscious, it always remembers. We just have to, it's like Google. We just got to ask it the right questions, and boom, up comes the information, right? Even I never used to remember my childhood either, right? Because we want to forget the things that were so painful.
Absolutely.
So it's okay if you don't even remember, you'll still remember when you ask it the right questions, because it's the way that we're designed. So what happens is the child grows by an emotional bond of trust, right? And when that bond is broken, we experience an emotional trauma. So all it takes is that emotional bond of trust to be broken. That's why I say every single human being has experienced a trauma. What happens is we went into an experience, and where before we would normally go through that experience and just feel whole, perfect, and complete like always, this time we went through it, but we got stuck. Every single one, they will tell me, like when I ask them questions there, they will remember feeling confused, like something is really wrong. They made it all their fault. Whatever happened, they didn't go, oh, mom and dad are just having a bad day, or parent or teacher is just having, no, they said, oh,
it's me.
It's me. There must be something wrong with me. So this is going to sound too strong of a word, but you have to feel it, because it's more of a feeling, because we only had a subconscious mind when this happened. So this was all in the feeling mind. It's not logical. But what happened that day when that experience happened, it was so traumatic for each one of us that we pulled back within ourselves. We separated from the truth of who we really are, that wholeness of who we really are. And then that's the day we created our ego.
Yeah.
Okay. And then from that day forward, so there's two types of ego. We all have both inside of us, but there's one that is the main driver. So for instance, the superiority ego is one who's like, I'm going to prove it. They're the rebels. I'm going to prove to you, I'm going to do, so they're more like, oh yeah, you tell me I can't do that. So there's that part that is like, I'm going to show you, I'm going to prove you, kind of thing. But then there's the inferiority ego, which is the one that wants to hide, avoid, not be, like pull back inside of that way. So there's the, I'm going to attack, or I'm going to hide and not be seen, withdraw, right?
Yeah.
Not one right, one wrong. This is not morality. This is just, those are two ways of surviving your life. Well, my older sister already had the superiority ego one. She would have killed me if I would have taken that one. So of course I took the inferiority ego, right? It's like, I'll just hide, I'll just pull back. So here's what happens then. From that day forward, every negative experience we've had just becomes a deeper, bigger version of the same damn trauma. It will keep happening over and over again until we heal it. And when we heal it, we then start operating from wholeness, or like another way of saying it, we kind of go back home to who we were prior to the experience happening. The reason why people can't find this, like therapists and stuff, is they keep looking for it in the mind, and that negative voice that we have, that inner critic, that's actually the ego, there to protect us. So it's really just doing its job, but it's just a symptom of the underlying root cause. So the cause is emotional. So here's what I wish somebody would have told me, oh my God, a long time ago. It would have saved me years of like not understanding this. But this is what happens to every single person. So what happens, why we struggle, is because prior to the age of 7, we only had this subconscious emotional mind, right? It's the feeling mind. As we start getting older, right, we get the more logical mind. So we end up looping, self-sabotaging between the emotional feeling mind and the logical mind. And so now what happens to all of my people, and all of your people say the same thing. I know what to do logically. I just can't seem to do it emotionally, right? So we loop between the two types of minds, that two parts of ourselves. And so it kind of becomes this vicious feeling that, and you have to feel it from inside. We get fragmented and in this inner conflict within ourselves, where there is a part of us, the logical part, that says, I want to show up, I want to be seen, but then the emotional side of ourselves in that feeling mind is like, but please don't see me.
Yeah.
Because if you see me, you're going to see what's really wrong with me. And so I can't really be seen. So we struggle between the two parts. See me, don't see me. See me, don't see me. And this is the reason why people are afraid of public speaking. And this is the reason why people are afraid of people's judgments and opinions. And that's why, we're afraid of like using our voice and speaking up what we see. We're so afraid to be shamed or experience those feelings we felt whenever our first trauma happened, that it becomes what's running in the background of our mind 24/7. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, no, I agree
Yeah.
100%,
Yeah.
especially if you haven't tapped into it or processed it, or even know how to.
Exactly.
Yeah, we tend to go ahead and whatever we experienced that was traumatic, we shield it. We do everything we can to protect it. Anything
Exactly.
else that comes in later on in life, it's a trigger. It's an automatic trigger.
That's right.
Right. And so,
That's
yeah,
right.
that wall's built up and we keep it there because it provides us with this false sense of security.
That's exactly right. And
Mhm.
that is why I just didn't understand why. Like, it's like now when everything starts to make sense, that we can connect the dots, which
Mhm.
allows us then to process through it and free ourselves
Absolutely.
from it. Because the goal is then to bring that emotional side of ourselves that went out of alignment that day and
Yeah.
bring it back into alignment and wholeness with the truth of who we really are, so that we can operate from wholeness, right? A lot of times,
Absolutely.
I think the biggest confusion is, or some of the biggest confusion,
Mhm.
Ryan Holiday wrote a book called The Ego is the Enemy. And although I understand why he said that, it really isn't the enemy when we can see that we actually created the ego as a way
Yeah.
to survive something. So it's actually our best friend. Like, if we can see it for what it was, which is an idea that got planted into our mind by us, by thinking it was our fault, and then we forgot we implanted it.
Yeah.
Kind of like the movie Inception. Right? It's like, that's like, he says that in the beginning of the movie. He's like, if you haven't seen that movie, such a great movie with Leonardo DiCaprio. And he's like,
DiCaprio. Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
he says that because, he said, what's the most deadliest thing to man? It's not disease. It's not this. It's not. He says it's an idea implanted into their mind,
Yeah.
and not realizing they're the ones who implanted it.
Mhm.
Right? It's an inception.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Well,
good.
so all of that requires some form for us to go ahead and dig deep, for us to go ahead and
Yeah.
process through it, understand it, make sense of it, right?
Yes.
We have to take some form of risk and we have to be vulnerable. And so when we
Mm,
have that big old wall up and we don't allow anybody in,
yeah.
it feels comfortable. However, we
Yeah.
also stay stagnant.
Yeah.
So uh, with risk involved, how do we kind of take that next step?
Sure. And I love that question. So first of all, it's a brilliant question. The first thing that I want to say, and I'm going to answer the question, but the first thing I want to say is our birth puts us automatically at risk of dying. We are not going to die. We are dying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
the fact
Yeah.
that we're born, we're going to die. Like nobody
Yeah.
gets out of here alive.
For real.
So the funniest thing to me, I just have to say this ahead of time because it's like so funny to me when I got this, like really got it in my body. The funniest thing to me was I was living my whole life in fear of what? Everybody's gonna die. Like it was just the funniest thing when I really got this, that nobody gets out of here alive. And I was thinking, but why do we act like there's this weird thing, like we're supposed to be afraid that we're gonna die when everybody dies? So I
Yeah.
have to say this because the truth is there is no such thing with this life in the time space that we live in, this reality. There is no such thing as living without risk.
Yeah.
Like everything, like we're all gonna die.
Yeah.
So it's like there is no, so I just have to say that because the illusion is that you can protect yourself from a risk.
Yes.
And the
Yes.
truth is you can't. But what you can do, as far as like in the sense of making good decisions and reducing, like, having the odds be in your favor and all this other kind of stuff. And so I am going to answer the question, but I have to say that because it's like the funniest thing to me. We have to start with first understanding that, because of the trauma, we view vulnerability as something is wrong. Like for
Mm-hmm.
us to be vulnerable, and this comes from the trauma, right? Like I made a decision, like I am never going to let that happen to me again. And
Yeah.
that decision was like, don't,
Prison.
it's like, don't, yeah, and don't be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like, don't ever let somebody do this. Don't, right? So that right there, that prison there, that decision. And so the illusion was, or the misunderstanding or the misconception that I had at 5 or 4, I think it was around between 4 and 5, is that vulnerability is a weakness, when in truth, vulnerability is our greatest power. And let
Exactly.
me explain. Yeah, let me explain that, right? So, for instance, the reason that trauma stayed a trauma is because I didn't know how to give it a voice of what I was feeling and my emotions and say what I was feeling and process through my emotions to come to harmony inside you, like come back into wholeness. That's why it stayed a trauma. I would have had
Absolutely.
to have parents who knew how to process their own emotions. Now,
Mm-hmm.
in hindsight, the interesting thing, and I have no more anger, anything like that with my father. Like he died by now, but before he died, we completely made peace with this. But the fascinating thing was he actually thought it would toughen me up. Like he actually thought he was
Yeah.
helping me.
Yeah. Yes.
Because right, you can
Yeah.
understand, right?
Totally.
My dad was Latin. My dad was from Venezuela, and he grew up where, like, when the way that you overcome things is if you're afraid of swimming, they just throw you in the river
Yeah.
and
You're
then
done.
you
You're
work it
good. Now
out.
you can swim. Now you can swim. You're
You
good.
figure it out,
Let's move
right?
on. Let's move on. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So in hindsight, I'm just sharing because now it's all fun. I'm still a vegetarian to this day, but still that never changed. But I'm definitely forgiving, and I'm not, I don't, I used to cook meat for my family and everything, so I'm not like against any of that. I just want to say, but my point is that, yeah, like the misunderstanding and the misconception I had is that was a weakness. So I vowed never to be weak again, which then only keeps me more trapped, right?
Yeah.
Because the more you are like inside of those walls, the more you imprison yourself. Everybody else is not in prison, you are,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the big thing there. Like we have to really clear the misunderstanding of what are we making vulnerability mean, right?
Yeah.
What's the truth and what's the lie? Asking ourselves, what's the truth and what's the lie? Getting to the truth of what it is. Like the reason I'm so successful is because everything that I would be afraid of or ashamed of, I've actually shared.
Yeah.
So I don't have any walls because I've already told everybody
Yeah.
everything. Like, I've already shared it. I mean, I remember, I grew up poor, and I built 2 multi-million dollar companies and so forth. And I remember like when before all this happened, like I remember as a teenager, like I remember sharing like about, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, a story of, I worked for a guy and I remember taking some clothes like from the store I worked in, like, and did I had ever done that before? No, but I remember like in the store, they let me wear these clothes during the store because my clothes were crap, right? I
Yeah.
grew up poor. And so they let me use the clothes while I was in the store selling them. And then they would give me all this praise of like, oh my God, you look so pretty like that, that I was like, oh, I don't want to go back to my old crappy clothes, right? And I remember one time, like, the manager had to leave early and everything. And I was like, oh, I just remember, I'm like, I'm just going to borrow this. I'm going to wear it to school. Right. I was still a teenager at that time. And I was like, I'm going to wear it to school because I've been working since I was 13 years. And I'm like, oh, I'll just return it when I come back.
Yeah.
Right.
Done.
And
Easy.
so, yeah, long story short, like I did that, like, I don't know, 2, 3 times. And then the manager, I came in one time and she was crying and I was like, what? And she's like, somebody's stealing clothes and I'm going to lose my job because, the inventory was off. I didn't have any idea they did inventory. Like, this is how clueless I am as a anyway, my point is, I totally was like, I never did it again. I never thought it was going to jeopardize her, any of her career or anything like that. But I shared that because when you share these things, like, it's, and I made the joke and it's the truth though. I will, if I ever ran into that guy, I don't even remember the guy's name that owned the store, but I would, I'm happy to give him his money plus interest. But my point is that when you share those things, there is no more walls for anyone to use against you, right? Like I've never said that I'm perfect. I've never, it's really when we process our emotions and our traumas, we get to keep all the strengths and
Yeah.
let go of all the weakness from it,
Yeah.
right?
Well, it's healing. I think the
Yeah.
biggest thing too with trauma is what I've seen is we tend to go ahead and make it this we sort of make it this cement our
Yes.
cemented brain, so to speak. But
Mm.
it's really like, you know, it's like you mentioned this wall, but like unless you're able to truly process
Yeah.
through it, it stays cemented. And anything that
Totally.
triggers it only compiles more and more and
Totally.
more, right? And
Totally.
so you're living this life with this unhealed trauma. And then
Yes.
in addition to that, you're living completely scared. And I love that you just said, like, life, we're already, it's already happening, every
Yes.
single day as we get older.
Yes.
Um, it's 1 year, not taken away, but it's 1 year gone. So we're
Totally.
moving up that dang ladder, whether we
Totally.
like it or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, and so one thing I appreciate about what you're saying is,
Hmm.
listen, we're already living in it. It's already
Yeah.
happening. So you get to choose whether or not you give somebody permission to go out and take over
Yes.
and live your life for you or direct you or control you, or you get to go ahead and pull back the reins and say, no, it's my turn. Right.
That's right. That's right. I mean, it really is that is it. Like, the biggest suffering occurs so let me just say this. Freedom happens when we are non-attached,
Yeah.
non-judgment, and non-resistance, right? Like freedom, in reality, freedom is all about non-attachment, non-judgment, non-resistance. And so what happens is that the suffering occurs when we want something to be different than reality is, right?
Bingo.
So reality is we are all dying. Like, it's nobody gets out of here alive. That's reality. The
Yeah.
perception is that somehow we can outskirt that. The
Yeah.
perception. But when you can really be with the reality, like I'm totally at peace with the fact that I'm going to die, I really changed my relationship to living. It freed me from the concern of it anymore because it's no longer running now in the background of my mind. I also, when we heal the trauma, and then we understand how to use our minds as the tools they were designed for. So the mind was never designed to be the master. It was always meant to be the servant, right?
Mm.
So think of it kind of like a hammer, where a hammer can be used to build something up or tear it down.
Yeah.
In this time space reality that we live in, Nothing in this universe exists outside of a wholeness, like a circle, right? So meaning everything exists in whole. So that means for up to exist, down must equally exist. For in to exist, out must equally exist. So this is the universal law of polarity. So that means for our minds to be something that could build us up, it can also tear us down. One cannot exist without the other at the same moment in time. Well, guess what? This is the really great news, because that means for a problem to exist, the equal and opposite of a solution must equally exist at the same moment in time. So for lack to exist, abundance must equally exist at the same moment. The key is understanding that you can't, to alleviate struggle and suffering, you cannot push against the polar opposite and get what you want. So there's an acceptance that has to happen. Like I don't need there not to be darkness for there to be light, right? It's okay. I don't need my ego to go, like, to literally, like, I can't make the ego wrong in order for me to be my aligned self. The key is understanding both parts exist, but because I no longer operate from my ego, I don't have a negative voice that runs in my head all day long anymore, right? And if somebody would have told me that years ago, I would have thought they were crazy probably, but but the truth is it stops running, right? So can you see, like, it's not about making something wrong, but more understanding that that's actually reality. And then the struggle happens when we think it shouldn't be that way, right?
Absolutely.
We don't, yeah.
I appreciate what you just said. The struggle is in that suffering, choosing
Totally.
to deny reality over and over. It happened. It
That's
already
exactly
happened. We
right.
can't go back in time and change it.
That's exactly right.
However, we get to learn from it. We get
Yeah.
to go ahead and find some level of acceptance, and we get to move forward.
Yeah. And we will always see there's a misconception and a misunderstanding that happened in the moment. There's for the trauma to stay a trauma, for any negative experience to be there, it contains a lie.
Yes. Yes.
So we have to locate the lie or the misunderstanding or the misconception, because that's what's keeping it locked into a lie, right? Like, I didn't know at that moment that my father thought he was actually helping me. I didn't know, right? I didn't even ask him. I didn't share a voice. I said nothing. I withdrew inside myself and built those walls. And then I never said another thing. And it was never talked through or processed through or anything. Now, so I didn't have a voice. I literally shut my voice off. And before that day, I had a voice. And then after that day, I decided I was never going to share anything with anybody, because I would never tell anyone what I cared about again. Right. And so it's inside of clearing those misunderstandings and misconceptions that now I'm completely free. I use my voice all the time, right? And have built, really successful companies in doing so. Because I think, like, for me, the biggest thing that I see in my direct experience is that what the world as a whole misses inside of business is, it doesn't matter what business you're in. I coach people from, realtors to attorneys to doctors to people, coaches to people who've never done business and just want to start a business, right? Like those entrepreneurs that aspire to be entrepreneurs, or those that are. And it doesn't matter the vehicle they're using to do business. The truth is, everybody's in the relationship game.
Yeah.
Every single person is in the relationship game. So what I often see is that not only do they don't understand the two parts of themselves, so that's why they're sabotaging their results and so forth, but then because they don't understand the game that we're in, because they may think that they're in the game of law, but the truth is they're really in the relationship game, and they're using a vehicle of law in order to funnel that, right, as a business. But once you can understand the game you're really in, and that's why healing these things are what is so important.
Yes.
Because it gets in the way of all your relationships, right?
Yeah.
when you do this and you heal this first inside of that, and then you apply strategy to your business, well, now you just become unstoppable, right? And unleashed. And that's really what has given me my incredible freedom to be. So yeah, I'm so glad it makes sense, you know.
No, I love that. Well, being able to go ahead and find true
Yeah.
acceptance, even with things that are completely unacceptable, provides you with a
Mm.
sense of freedom. And I love how
Yes.
you were saying, yeah, there's that polarity happening. However, because of that polarity, we're
Mm.
able to see like, okay, so if one's completely, let's say, negative or maybe
Yes.
undesirable, there's also
Yeah.
that desirable there. If you
Yes.
just step back and not get so tangled up in the emotion, you're able to
Yeah.
kind of see that if one exists, so does the other,
Yes.
you know?
Yes, it's like which one do you choose, right?
Yeah.
It's like which one you're going to choose. It's an interesting thing, but it's proven statistically. Like you cannot focus. Like let's just say, as an example, drunk drivers, right? As just
Hmm.
an example, right? If you focus on drunk drivers, making them wrong, the interesting thing is it just creates more shame and more people who drive drunk because they're drinking because of the shame, which is fascinating, right? Whereas if somebody who had an experience with a drunk driver and wanted to really do good in the world, they would have to actually shift their attention not from making drunk driving wrong, but healing the shame that causes people to drink. Do you see
Hmm.
what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
the solution to the problem is never about focusing on the problem, because in this universal in this universe we live in, there's another universal law that is super powerful, just as powerful as gravity. And so really freaking powerful is the universal law of cause and effect. And what that says is, you know that's why for when we focus on something,
Yeah.
whatever we focus on, it just gets bigger,
Yeah.
right? It
Yeah.
doesn't get smaller. It will just get bigger by the natural law of cause and effect. So you can't focus on the unwanted and get wanted. It
No.
just defies law, right? And so you have to understand these things. These are like the things that, and this is why I tell it all in my book. I give you everything that I wish. It's like the manual that I really wrote the book that I wish somebody had given me when I was like, I've been working since I was 13 years old. I would have loved this book because I've been into self-help since I was really young, since I had to work really, really young. I've read tons of books over the years and so forth. And I really wish somebody would have given this book to me because it's really like the manual for life, in the sense of what it does is it just tells you the truth in a story
Yeah.
format of exactly like, because here's the pieces that you need to really have a really incredible life. You really need to understand these principles, these truths that they go beyond religion, beyond culture. They're true principles like gravity, like they just are. And it
Yeah.
shows you, when you understand how life really works, not what you've been told life works, but
Hmm.
how it really works. And then you know exactly how you work as a human being, like what are the different components and how do you bring yourself into alignment, and what are those pieces. Well, when you know how you work as a human being, and you know how the world works as the truth, and now you can get everything to work for you,
Yeah.
instead of feel like you're always, having it work against you.
Always stuck, always in that
Always stuck.
handicap. Hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
I want to ask you two
Sure.
questions that I
Of
ask
course.
everybody. My first question is, what are you doing right now to live the life you want to live?
Oh, I love that question. So I love that question so much because I literally was, put out a post for like my whole community and so forth about how I start my year, like how, my partner and I, what we do. And we literally start with the life we want to live. So to us, and this is to everybody in business, I always say what I learned from doing my first company, a couple things I learned. Number one is it's not how much money you make, it's how much you get to keep. So who cares if you make over $1 million some odd dollars and you're paying out 435,000, in staffing and,
Mhm.
inside
Everything
of
else.
37% to taxes, right? So
Uh-huh.
you've got to have the right business model so that you have the highest profit margin possible, right? So let me just say that because, to me, it's, it really is, that's the, bottom line on that one. The second thing is, it's in, as far as success is, success without fulfillment to me is the ultimate failure. So I really, really, really highly encourage people to start with the lifestyle they want to live. And then let's choose the business model that's going to give you that lifestyle and use that vehicle that will get you, is going to give it to you, right? It's going to give you that. So that being said, what I'm doing to live the most incredible life right now is I actually start with, how great do we want this year to go? Like, I actually start with the things that I crave the most. How much do I want to give to philanthropy this year? Like, I've got causes that I really stand for. I believe that everybody should never be without clean water. So I'm a huge proponent for clean water. So I definitely, support charity water, and I also support a billion trees. So I'm big for like planting and, giving a voice to those that don't have it, and the animals and so forth. So the two things that I'm really big on. So I start out like, okay, how much do I want to be giving them? So I'm going to start from there. And then I'm going to start from, then inside of that, what's the lifestyle that I just like, oh my God, all the things that I crave. Like, I'm going to do an epic trip. We're inviting all of our, like, our two sides of our family. So it's a big house that I'm renting in Costa Rica as an epic trip for my entire family and my partner's entire family. And we're doing that. And then we're going to treat them to surf lessons and zip line. And there was one more, going to Monkey Beach, right? So we plan this epic trip, right? Then once I plan everything that I'm going to do in the life I want to live, if there's anything else we want to buy this year, we put it in the mix, like anything else in investment properties, how much we want to do for that. Then we come up with the number inside of that. And then we go, okay, now what is it if we, like, what would be like, just like, what is our like the F, biggest effing like number we can come up with that we want to hit. So we go for even bigger than that. And then we work backwards. Now we go, okay, so now what would that look like on an actual month basis, on a week basis, on a day? We chunk it all back down, reverse engineer it, and really create from there. So we don't really come from like, I hope I'm going to hit this. We actually know exactly what we're doing to hit those numbers. But that's how I feel like, to answer your question, I feel like you got to live from what really lights you up, because otherwise, what's the point?
Amen. Yeah.
Right.
100%.
What's the point?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're not going to just dream it. We're actually going to do it. I love that.
And it's like, if we all are going to die anyway, how do we want to play this game? Why wouldn't we want to play it to the fullest? Like, why don't we want to, I'm the person that wants to be on my deathbed, like without one regret. Like, not one thing that I didn't do that I wanted to accomplish and the way I wanted to live this life. That is my ultimate goal, is to live without any regret and live unabashed.
I love that. That takes me to my last question.
Okay.
So in one sentence, what advice would you give to the mom who feels stressed and disconnected?
Oh, that's a great one. Well, I would have her do a couple things. The first thing I would have her do is I would ask her, what is the stress that's causing, her to feel disconnected? And then more specifically, when she nails that, what is she making that mean? Right? So give it the meaning, like write it down so she can really see, oh, I'm making that mean this, like whatever is causing her stress, I'm making that mean this. Okay, great. Now I want her to take that, what she's making it mean, because that's really where the struggle is coming from. And now I want her to separate this based on what's the lie and what's the truth about that meaning.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So really pulling out of like herself and looking down and knowing that based on law of polarity, both sides exist. So when she can clarify, oh, well, the lie is this piece and the truth is this piece. Now from there, that's where she's starting to get to power. She's not fully there, but now she's getting from neutrality. Now she's getting access to power. So from that power, she needs to then say, okay, now that she can see the truth and the lie, what does she need to accept and maybe forgive, right? Like there's maybe
Yeah.
some forgiveness of like herself or for some others or whatever she was making it mean. What does she need to accept? What does she need to forgive? And then the last thing would be, now where can she use her voice? Let's say she was really wanting something and she didn't feel she deserved it, but she's not really asking for
Hmm.
what it is she wants. She's assuming that people should know what she wants. She's either reacting or, hiding and avoiding.
Yeah.
But let her have a voice. And if she could ask for what she wants from completely not making anyone wrong, but saying, hey, you know what? I really, really want this to happen. Whatever the thing that she's so afraid is not, or what she's making mean that couldn't happen, and ask for what she wants. Um, she will find that it's really in using that voice. The number one, somebody asked me recently, why is it that only 2% of females ever break a million? And I said, well, number one, it's their trauma. And number two,
Yeah.
because as a society, as women, we tend to think we have to take care of everyone else. So
Yeah.
we're not great delegators or asking for what we want.
Hmm.
So she needs to learn to use that voice of asking. I always say every woman needs her own wife. Like,
Oh yeah. My husband and I were just talking about that. I was like, honey, I mean, I'm a good wife. However, I'm not cooking. I'm not cleaning.
right.
So
You
yeah,
can't.
I need to marry one.
Right. You need your own wife. Like that's why I'm saying my integrator in my company is my wife, my copywriter, my social
Yeah.
stuff. Like all
Yeah.
my people are my people. And that's why I do so great, is because I ask for what I want. And we've got to learn to ask for what we
Amen.
want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where can we find you?
Okay, they can grab my book for free. There's a download link you can go. That I know you can post it below, but I'll say it anyway. It's called Mia Meant for More book.com. And then all they have to do is there's a password there. It's password protected. They just need to put in free book, all one word with a
Okay.
capital F, capital
Oh,
F, all one word, free book, Mia Meant for More book.com, and they can download it for free.
yay. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
my
And then
pleasure.
are you on Instagram?
Oh
Anything?
yeah, I'm on both, on Instagram and Facebook. Those are the two that I'm on. I talk the most. And then of course they can always ask me any questions. I'm the one that responds to my own emails, so my team
Yay.
doesn't. So they can email me any questions at miahewett.com, and Hewett is Hewett, because a lot of times people couldn't find me because they thought it was ITT. So
ITT. Yep.
yeah.
Mia, thank
Yay.
you so much for being on. This was
Pleasure.
amazing.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me on. And thanks so much for what you do in really helping women and moms be empowered. So thank you so much. That's awesome. Great work you're doing.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.